I got home from 6 months at sea. My neighbor dropped everything and ran barefoot across the yard. The taxi rolled to a stop in front of the small house on Maple Street, and Marcus Chan felt his chest tighten in a way that had nothing to do with the 6 months he had just spent on a cargo ship crossing the Pacific. Through the dusty window, he could see that the front porch light was off, the lawn overgrown, and the mailbox hanging at an odd angle like a broken arm. Everything looked wrong. Everything looked abandoned. His wife Rachel had always kept the house perfect, always kept things running smoothly while he was away earning their living on the open water. But now, staring at the neglected property under the bright afternoon sun, Marcus knew with crushing certainty that something terrible had happened while he had been unreachable in the middle of the ocean. That he paid the driver with trembling hands, grabbed his weathered duffel bag, and stepped onto the cracked sidewalk. The June heat pressed against his face, but he felt cold inside. For half a year, he had counted down the days until he could hold Rachel again, until he could tell her that this would be his last voyage, that he had saved enough money for them to finally start the family they had dreamed about. He had written her letters at every port, sent emails whenever the ship had internet access, and fallen asleep each night imagining her smile. But for the last 3 weeks, there had been only silence from her end. No responses. No updates. Just a growing void that had gnawed at him during the endless final stretch of the journey home. If you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this story, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House. Your support means the world to us. Marcus walked up the path, noticing how the flower beds Rachel had planted were now choked with weeds, how the white paint on the shutters was beginning to peel. He fumbled with his keys, his hands refusing to steady themselves, and finally managed to unlock the front door. The house smelled stale and empty. Dust covered the furniture. Mail was scattered across the floor beneath the mail slot. In the kitchen, he found dishes in the sink and a calendar on the wall with the last notation made on March 15th, the day after he had left. Everything after that date was blank. His phone, which he had charged at the airport during his layover, showed dozens of missed calls from a number he did not recognize, but no voicemails, no messages that explained anything. That he stood in the center of the living room, his duffel bag dropping from his shoulder to the floor with a heavy thud, and felt the panic rising in his throat. Where was Rachel? Why had she left? Had something happened to her? Had she grown tired of waiting, tired of being married to a man who disappeared for months at a time to work on ships in distant waters? The questions crashed through his mind like waves against a hull, each one threatening to pull him under. He pulled out his phone and tried calling her number again, but it went straight to voicemail, just as it had for weeks. The sound of her recorded voice, cheerful and warm, was almost more than he could bear. Marcus walked back outside, desperate for air, for some explanation, for anything that would make sense of this nightmare. He stood on the front lawn, the afternoon sun beating down on his shoulders, and tried to think clearly through the fog of exhaustion and fear. That was when he saw her. His neighbor, Naomi Foster, was in her front yard across the street, hanging laundry on a clothesline. She was a woman in her early 60s, someone he and Rachel had exchanged pleasant waves with over the years but never really gotten to know beyond basic neighborly courtesy. Naomi looked up from the white sheet she was pinning to the line, and their eyes met across the distance. What happened next would stay with Marcus for the rest of his life. Naomi's face transformed in an instant, her expression shifting from casual concentration to something that looked like recognition, relief, and profound sadness all at once. She dropped the sheet she was holding, letting it fall into the grass, and without any hesitation whatsoever, she ran. She ran barefoot across her lawn, across the street without even looking for cars, and across Marcus's overgrown yard, her gray hair streaming behind her and her house dress billowing in the breeze. She ran like someone who had been waiting for months to deliver urgent news, like someone who had been carrying a burden too heavy for one person to bear alone. Marcus stood frozen as Naomi reached him, breathing hard, her eyes glistening with tears. She grabbed both of his hands in hers, holding them tightly, and he could feel the trembling in her fingers. She looked up at him with such compassion, such gentle sorrow, that he felt his knees weaken. Without saying a word at first, she simply held his hands and let him see in her face that she knew exactly what he had just discovered, that she understood the confusion and terror that had gripped him the moment he saw his empty house. When Naomi finally spoke, her voice was soft but steady, measured in the way that people speak when they are about to deliver news that will change everything. She told him that Rachel was alive. She told him that Rachel was safe. And then, with infinite gentleness, she told him that Rachel was at Riverside Medical Center, where she had been for the past 4 months. She explained that Rachel had been diagnosed with leukemia shortly after Marcus had left for his voyage, that the disease had progressed rapidly, and that she had made the decision not to tell him while he was at sea because she did not want him to spend 6 months in agony on a ship with no way to get home, no way to help, no way to do anything except worry and suffer in isolation. Naomi explained that Rachel had asked her to watch the house, to be there when Marcus returned, to be the one to tell him the truth because Rachel had been too weak to write, too sick to call, and too afraid that hearing her voice in such a fragile state would break his heart across the thousands of miles that separated them. Naomi had been checking the house every day, waiting for the moment when Marcus would finally come home. She had his number from Rachel, had tried calling him those last few weeks as Rachel's condition had worsened, but had not been able to reach him during the final stretch of his voyage when the ship had been out of communication range. Marcus felt the world tilt beneath his feet, but Naomi held his hands tighter, anchoring him to the moment. She told him that Rachel had been asking about him every single day, that she had been fighting with everything she had to stay strong until he returned, and that the doctors said she was responding well to the treatment. Naomi told him that Rachel loved him more than anything in the world, that every conversation they had shared during these terrible months had been filled with stories about Marcus, about their life together, about the future they were going to build when he came home for good. Then Naomi did something that broke through all of Marcus's defenses. She pulled him into a hug, this neighbor he barely knew, this woman who had been caring for his wife in his absence, and she held him while he finally let himself cry. She held him while the fear and relief and guilt and love poured out of him in great, shuddering waves. She held him the way a mother holds a child, the way a friend holds a friend, the way one human being holds another when words are not enough. When Marcus could finally breathe again, Naomi released him and looked up with a small, hopeful smile. She told him that she would drive him to the hospital right now, that Rachel had been counting down the hours until his ship was due to dock, and that seeing him walk through her hospital room door would be the best medicine anyone could prescribe. Naomi said that Rachel had been carrying a photograph of the two of them in her hospital gown pocket, holding it against her heart through every treatment, through every difficult night, through every moment when the fear threatened to overwhelm her. If this story has touched your heart, if you felt the emotion in this moment, please take a second to like this video, leave a comment telling us what this story meant to you, and subscribe to Wisdom Story House so we can continue bringing you stories that matter. Before we reach the end, we have a special request. Please comment below, telling us about a time when a neighbor or stranger showed you unexpected kindness. Your story might inspire someone else today. Marcus grabbed his keys from his pocket and followed Naomi to her car, his heart pounding with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. As they drove through the sunny afternoon streets toward Riverside Medical Center, Naomi talked quietly about Rachel's courage, about her strength, about how she had insisted on protecting Marcus from worry even while fighting for her life. She told him that sometimes the deepest love is shown not in the moments when we hold each other close, but in the moments when we make impossible choices to protect each other from pain. When they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Marcus could barely sit still. Naomi led him through the automatic doors, through the maze of corridors, up the elevator to the 4th floor, and finally to room 417. She squeezed his shoulder once, told him that Rachel was waiting, and then stepped back to give him privacy. Marcus pushed open the door and saw her there, his Rachel, thinner and pale but with those same beautiful eyes that had captured his heart years ago. When she saw him, her face lit up with such joy, such pure relief and love, that Marcus knew with absolute certainty that they would get through this together. He crossed the room in 3 steps and gathered her carefully into his arms, feeling her tears soak into his shirt, feeling her fingers grip the fabric like she would never let go. Outside in the hallway, Naomi Foster wiped her own tears and smiled. She had kept her promise. She had been there when it mattered most. And sometimes, she thought as she walked back toward the elevator, that is all any of us can do for each other, show up, run barefoot across the yard if we must, and hold each other through the storms until the sun breaks through again.